wanting to share an acknowledgement of consciousness that I witness many initiates and beloved brothers and sisters go down this paradigm of confusion in their life where they keep descending. And for anyone who doesn't understand dissension, I want to explain what dissension is first. So dissension is basically the time that you would find yourself in the dark night of the soul. It's the time that you would find yourself in the thick of it, in the mud, in the deep purge, right? All of these different languages that we use, that is what dissension is. Dissension is this falling from grace energy. You find yourself fine, and then all of a sudden everything's shifted and you're right in the depths of the darkness. It's really hard to see, have a lot of physical pain. There's a lower vibrational experience. So dissension is when you choose, either consciously or unconsciously, to go into the low vibrations of yourself and experience the low vibrations or the low frequencies, the density, the distortion, the matter of yourself to understand yourself or understand yourself. Now, I witness so many choosing the path of descent, and what happens is they're going into dissension to find aspects of themselves that they're not willing to see, recognize, or experience from their center point, from their union point, from their heart space. So instead of staying balanced, instead of choosing to create from that point of balance, which is why when we apply this to relationships, why relationships are push and pull. You're like, can love, and then you go into self behaviors, or perhaps you've got a business and you're so inspired and you create all of these amazing things, and then you pull back and you have no inspiration and you don't have anything to offer. Now, this is the ascension dissension experience that so many are choosing, and the ascension choice, because that's what it is, you're choosing to descend, is going into the low vibration, which is gaining information. So dissension is not created by ascension. Dissension is created by the aspect of what we would call ignorance. So dissension is a direct creation point from ignorance. Of self, ignorance of other, ignorance of what your experience, ignorance. In etymology and its origins, ignorance actually means lack of information. So it's not a negative connotation. We don't need to put labels on it as being a bad thing. But ignorance, when it shows up, when you have ignorance, you're ignoring the information because you have a lack of interpretation of it. So you descend into the depths of lack of information, because that's what it is. Matter has not got enough illuminated light. It hasn't got enough source frequency to express the information. So you descend into it to find the information, to receive the information. Now, we don't have to do that. And I don't align with that teaching. Dissension is not the path of unity. Dissension is the path of pain and suffering, to find information to grow. But when you keep descending, you're going to keep meeting high heights of ascension, descension. And that's the push and pull dynamic of sovereignty, control, freedom, entrapment, ego, self, soul, human, right? So this is where we continue to polarize ourselves over and over and over. But this ignorance, which is what's creating dissension, this ignorance of my own choices, who I have in my field, ignorance of the story, right? The lack of information. I'm actually not receiving the information that would help me to stay balanced and in homeostasis. And if I allowed myself the balanced expression, then I wouldn't need to descend. If I chose to not be in ignorance and chose to receive information, what is the information I need here? What is the information I'm not gaining? What is the information I would receive if I, at the end of my dissension, right? Because we justify all of the time. Oh, I had to go through the pain to feel the love. That's a lie. Be love. Learn through love. Learn through connection. Gain information and don't sit in ignorance through the connection point. So what happens is, because there's an unwillingness to stay connected to oneself and all of life and see the truth of life and the truth of self in full information and staying informed, that's when we descend. When we don't ourselves. Now, inform is meeting our inner connection. Being informed is listening to our intuition. Being informed is keeping our kundalini, our chi to ourself and generating it. Being informed is where energy moves through you, consciousness moves through you, and you're able to stay in a high vibrational state without bouncing. Because when you're in a clear state, you're informing yourself of your next steps. You're informing yourself of what you're creating. You're informing yourself in clarity and truth of where you're going. And if you're not doing that, if you're not staying informed, then you will descend over and over, because you're not using your gifts, your abilities. You're not honoring yourself. And that means that you have to meet the depths of where you're not honoring yourself, rather than choosing self-information. And you can bounce this loop over and over and over, but it's not from the form of ascension, descension. Ascension doesn't create descension. You can ascend and then come down to the balance point. You can ascend and come into homeostasis, just like you can descend and come to balance, descend and come to balance. You don't even have to go into ascension to descend. They don't coexist. They're different realities of experiencing. And dissension is one that this of shadow work, this idea of looking at where you need to heal, this idea of transformation, letting go, releasing attachments, all of these different thought forms will continue to feed that narrative. But the truth is, you're ignorant. You're ignorant to the truth that sits within you. And so you're becoming informed. You're not yet informed. You're not yet forming a point of connection of your inner intuition, your inner gifts, your inner medicine. You're actually giving them up over and over and over. And that's why you're descending. That's why it's hurting. Because you're not honoring the inner information and you're sitting in ignorance. I love you, beautiful souls. I hope this brought you some insight into why you might be descending. See it from love and compassion and see what it is. Ask yourself a question. Sit with this question. If it resonates in your sacred heart, in your soul, in your truth, in your body, in your being, what am I not informing myself about that is causing me to continually descend? What is my information? What is it that I'm in ignorance of that would allow me to stay in my essence and my truth and create from there? I love you.